The scars covered his arms like a map of bad decisions. I watched the human, this creature called Marcus Webb, as he sat across from me in the interrogation chamber of the Galactic enforcement station. The fluorescent lighting, harsh and unforgiving, cast shadows across the ridges and valleys of damaged tissue that decorated his exposed skin. Some were thin and white, others thick and purple. A few looked recent, still pink and angry. I tapped my datapad, trying to maintain my composure. My name is Vorn, senior investigator for the Coalition, and in my 40 cycles of service, I had never encountered a species quite so broken, yet functional. You understand why you are here, human? I asked, my translator converting my clicks and whistles into his barbaric language. Marcus leaned back in his chair, the metal creaking under his weight. He wore a half smile that made my secondary stomachs churn. Oh, I have a pretty good idea, yeah. Something about unauthorized entry into a restricted zone, theft of military-grade weaponry, and what was the third thing? Oh, right, assault on 3 Kronar guards. 4 guards, I corrected. The 4th one barely counts. I just pushed him. He fell on his own. I resisted the urge to throw my datapad at his insufferable face. The Kronar are warriors, human. They stand 8 feet tall, possess strength triple that of most species, and train their entire lives for combat. You are telling me one simply fell? Look, buddy, it's not my fault your warrior race skips leg day. I did not understand the reference, but his tone suggested mockery. I tapped through his file again, searching for something, anything that would explain how this soft-skinned, fragile-looking creature had survived situations that would kill most beings in the galaxy. Your species has no natural armor, I observed, gesturing at his exposed arms. No enhanced healing factor documented in our records. No redundant organs, no exoskeleton, no venom sacs, no camouflage capability. By all accounts, humans are mediocre. Mediocre? Marcus laughed, a sharp bark that echoed off the metal walls. That's the nicest thing anyone's said about us in weeks. I pointed at the largest scar, a twisted mass of tissue running from his shoulder to his elbow. Explain this one. He glanced down, almost surprised to see it there. That? Plasma burn from a mining accident on Telos 4. Containment breach. Temperatures hit about 3,000 degrees. Lost 6 people that day. My eyes widened. Plasma at that temperature would vaporize most organic matter instantly. Yeah, well, I wasn't most organic matter. I was standing behind a support beam when it blew. Took the edge of it, not the full blast. He traced the scar with one finger. Hurt like hell, though. Couldn't move my arm right for months, but you survived. That's generally the goal, yeah. I moved my finger to another scar, this one across his knuckles. And this? Bar fight on Station 12. Some Velcrin trader thought I cheated him at cards. I didn't for the record, but try explaining probability to someone who breathes methane and has 4 brains. We disagreed. Things escalated. I introduced his face to the table. Repeatedly. The Velcrin have bone density twice that of your species. Marcus flexed his hand, the scar tissue stretching white across his knuckles. Yeah, I found that out the hard way. Broke 3 fingers. Totally worth it, though. The look on his face, or faces, was priceless. I was beginning to understand something disturbing about humans. They wore their damage like badges of honor. Every injury, every near-death experience, every moment where logic suggested they should have perished, they treated as a victory simply because they had not died. You realize, I said slowly, that other species view scars as marks of weakness? Evidence that you were not strong enough, not fast enough, not skilled enough to avoid injury in the first place? Marcus leaned forward, his eyes, those strange forward-facing predator eyes, locked onto mine. See, that's where you guys have it all wrong. These scars? They're not proof I was weak. They're proof I was strong enough to survive whatever caused them. There's a difference. Semantics. Survival. I stood abruptly, needing to pace. This human unsettled me in ways I could not articulate. Let us discuss why you are really here, Marcus Webb. 3 weeks ago, you infiltrated a hegemony research facility on Deneb 9. You stole experimental shield technology worth more than most planetary economies. You fought your way through an entire security battalion. You escaped in a cargo hauler with a broken hyperdrive. You should have died a dozen different ways during that mission. But I didn't. His smile never wavered. Why did you do it? The shields? They were reverse engineering human technology, stuff stolen from a colony ship that went missing 5 years ago. The hegemony claimed the ship suffered engine failure, lost in deep space. Tragic accident. Very sad. Except we found evidence they attacked it, killed everyone aboard, took everything that wasn't bolted down. I was just taking back what was ours. I checked my datapad. His story aligned with intelligence we had gathered independently, though we had lacked proof. You could have informed the coalition. We have protocols for these situations. Protocols take time. Time means more human tech in hegemony hands. Time means they get stronger while we're filling out paperwork in triplicate. No thanks. I'll handle my own problems. You mean you will continue to risk your life recklessly, if that's what it takes? I stopped pacing and faced him directly. I have reviewed your record, human. You have been injured 17 times in the past 4 standard years. You have been hospitalized 9 times. You have been clinically dead twice. Your own medical reports suggest you should retire, that your body cannot sustain this level of trauma indefinitely. Yet, you continue. Why? Marcus was quiet for a long moment, his expression shifting from cocky to something harder, something that made the temperature in the room feel like it had dropped several degrees. You ever lose someone, Vorn? The question caught me off guard. Yes, my clutchmate, many cycles ago. Illness. I'm sorry. He sounded genuine. I lost my sister, her name was Emma. She was on that colony ship the hegemony destroyed. She was a botanist, spent her whole life studying plant genetics, trying to help us grow food on worlds that shouldn't support life. She was brilliant. She was kind. She was 26 years old when they killed her. Now his recklessness made more sense. Revenge, then? Justice, he corrected. There's a difference. Is there? Revenge is about making yourself feel better. Justice is about making sure it doesn't happen to someone else. He touched another scar, this one near his collarbone. This one's from a hegemony shock rifle. Took it during the escape from Deneb 9. Dropped me flat on my back. Heart stopped for 40 seconds. My partner had to restart it manually while we were still under fire. You died. Briefly. Didn't take. You treat death like an inconvenience. That's because it is. Death's just the universe's way of saying you weren't stubborn enough. Well, guess what? I'm very stubborn. I sat back down, suddenly exhausted. The coalition wants to recruit you, Marcus Webb. Despite your methods, despite your disregard for protocol, despite everything that makes you an absolute nightmare for regulations and paperwork, they want you working for us instead of against us. He raised an eyebrow. You're kidding. I wish I were. Apparently, someone higher up the command chain believes humans possess certain qualities valuable for deep cover operations. Your ability to survive situations that would kill trained operatives is, as they put it, an asset. Deep cover, huh? He considered this. What's the catch? You must follow orders. You must coordinate with coalition forces. You must, and I cannot stress this enough, stop making decisions entirely on your own without consulting anyone with actual authority. So basically, stop being human, stop being reckless. Marcus laughed again. That same sharp sound. Reckless is how humans explore space. Reckless is how we survived on a death world where everything from the bacteria to the weather tried to kill us daily. Reckless is in our DNA. Vorn. You're asking me to cut out the part that makes humans, well, human. I am asking you to survive long enough to actually make a difference. He went quiet again, thinking. I could see calculations happening behind those predator eyes, weighing options, considering angles. Finally, he spoke. Okay, I'll do it. On one condition. You are hardly in a position to negotiate. I'm always in a position to negotiate. That's another human trait, by the way. We never know when we're beaten. He pointed at me with a scarred finger. My condition is this. When the coalition finally decides to do something about the hegemony, really do something instead of just talking about sanctions and trade restrictions, humans lead the charge. We've got skin in this game. Literally, I considered his demand. It was not unreasonable, though selling it to the council would be challenging. Most species viewed humans as too volatile, too emotional, too willing to sacrifice themselves for causes the rest of the galaxy considered lost. Perhaps that was exactly why they would succeed where others had failed. "I will present your condition to my superiors," I said finally. "But understand this, Marcus Webb. If you join us, if you become part of coalition operations, every mission will be dangerous. Every assignment could be your last. You will face enemies that make the hegemony look like children, playing with toys. You will see things that will give you nightmares for whatever remains of your short, violent life." Marcus stood, extending his scarred hand. "Sounds like Tuesday." I stared at his hand, then slowly reached out to clasp it, noting the strength in his grip, despite the visible damage to the appendage. "One more question," I said as we shook. "That scar across your chest, the one that looks like something tried to tear you open. What caused that?" His smile turned dark. "That's a story for part 2, Vorn. First rule of working with humans? We're great at building suspense." He walked toward the door, which slid open at his approach. "Oh, and Vorn? Thanks for not shooting me when you had the chance. I know you thought about it at least twice during this conversation." "How did you?" "Predator eyes, remember? We notice things. It's how we survived." And with that, Marcus Webb strolled out of my interrogation chamber like he owned the station, leaving me standing there wondering what exactly I had just unleashed upon the galaxy. My datapad chimed. A message from command. They had approved his recruitment, pending my assessment. I looked down at the device, then at the closing door, then back at the device. Against every instinct I possessed, I typed one word: approved. The galaxy was about to get much more interesting. And probably much more dangerous. But if humans had taught us anything, it was this: sometimes dangerous was exactly what you needed. I just hoped we all survived long enough to see if I was right. 3 months later, I found myself in a dropship hurtling toward the surface of Krath Prime, wondering how my life had deteriorated to this point. Marcus sat across from me, checking his weapons with the casual ease of someone preparing for a grocery run rather than a near-suicide mission. Next to him was his partner, a human woman named Rhea Kovac, who somehow managed to look even more dangerous despite having fewer, visible scars. "You look nervous, Vorn," Marcus said without looking up from his rifle. "We are about to infiltrate a hegemony stronghold with a team of 6 against a garrison of 300. "Nervous seems appropriate," Rhea snorted. 300? That's practically a vacation. Last month we hit a facility with twice that number. And you lost half your team. But we completed the mission, Marcus countered. That's what matters. I wanted to argue, to point out that lives mattered more than missions, but I had learned something about humans over the past 12 weeks. They understood that lives mattered. They simply believed that some things were worth dying for. It was a perspective that both terrified and fascinated me. The other 3 team members were coalition operatives: Krell, a Thorian heavy weapons specialist whose carapace could withstand direct plasma hits; Sienna, a Vex infiltrator whose natural camouflage made her nearly invisible; and Pax, a Rendari tech expert whose 4 arms could hack any system in the known galaxy. Together, we were supposed to retrieve data cores from the hegemony facility containing evidence of war crimes. Evidence the Coalition Council could finally use to authorize military action. The dropship shuddered as we entered the atmosphere. 2 minutes to drop zone, the pilot announced. Marcus stood, slinging his rifle over his shoulder. All right, everyone knows the plan. Sienna gets us past the perimeter sensors. Pax cracks the security network. Krell provides covering fire when things go sideways. Rhea and I handle close quarters combat, Vorn coordinates, and make sure we actually grab the right data cores this time. That was one time, I protested. And the labeling system was completely illogical. Sure, just don't grab the lunch menu again. The team chuckled. Even Krell, who normally had no sense of humor, made a clicking sound that passed for laughter among his people. The dropship's rear door opened, wind screaming through the cabin. Below us, the hegemony facility sprawled across a rocky plateau, all harsh angles and military efficiency. Go, go, go! Marcus shouted, and then he jumped. He jumped out of a perfectly functional aircraft, 3,000 feet above hostile territory, with nothing but a thin gravitic chute to slow his descent. Humans were insane. I jumped after him because apparently their insanity was contagious. The descent took 45 seconds. 45 seconds of pure terror as the ground rushed up to meet us, as targeting systems locked onto our heat signatures, as defensive turrets swiveled in our direction. Sienna hit the ground first, her camouflage activating instantly. The turrets hesitated, sensors confused. That moment of confusion was all Krell needed. His heavy cannon spoke once, twice, 3 times. 3 turrets exploded into shrapnel and sparks. We landed in a dead run, spreading out, moving toward the facility's eastern entrance. According to our intelligence, it was the least defended access point. Our intelligence was wrong. The door exploded outward as a squad of hegemony shock troops emerged, weapons raised, heavy combat models, their armor thick enough to shrug off small arms fire. "Contact!" Rhea shouted, diving behind a storage container. Plasma bolts filled the air, turning night into day. I scrambled for cover, my translator struggling to keep up with the rapid-fire curses Marcus was shouting as he returned fire. Krell's cannon roared again, taking down 2 shock troops. But more were coming. I could see them pouring out of the facility, at least 20 troops, maybe more. "Vorn," Marcus shouted from behind a concrete barrier. "We need that door closed, now. I am a coordinator, not a combat engineer. Figure it out." I pulled up my datapad, fingers flying across the interface as plasma bolts sparked off the wall above my head. There, the door controls, hardwired into the facilities. Network. If Pax could just... Pax, I need access to the eastern entrance systems. Working on it. The Rendari's voice was strained. Their encryption is military grade. Give me 30 seconds. We do not have 30 seconds. Marcus proved my point by taking a plasma bolt to the shoulder. The impact spun him around, and he went down hard. My heart seized in my chest. But then he was moving again, rolling behind better cover, his left arm hanging useless but his right still firing his rifle. Blood, bright red human blood, stained his tactical vest. "Marcus, you are injured." "Yeah, I noticed." He fired 3 more shots, each one finding a target. "Any time on that door, Vorn." "Pax." "Got it." The door suddenly slammed shut, cutting off the reinforcements. The remaining shock troops outside found themselves trapped in a crossfire between Krell's cannon and Rhea's precision shots. It was over in seconds. Marcus slumped against the barrier, breathing hard. Rhea was at his side immediately, pulling out a medical kit. "Plasma burn, 2nd degree." She assessed quickly. "You'll live. Always do." He grunted, then looked at me. "See, Vorn? Just another Tuesday. You were shot. Barely counts. Didn't even go all the way through." I stared at him, at the smoking wound on his shoulder, at the way he was already standing up despite obvious pain, and I finally understood something fundamental about humans. They were not fearless. They felt fear just like every other species. The difference was they had learned to function despite it, to push through pain and terror and the absolute certainty of death because something needed to be done. It was not stupidity, it was will. Pure, stubborn, unreasonable will. "We need to move," Marcus said, checking his rifle with his good arm. "That explosion will have alerted every guard in the facility. You need medical attention." "I need to finish the mission. Medical attention can wait." Sienna appeared. Beside us, her camouflage flickering off. "Eastern entrance is compromised. I found a maintenance shaft that leads to the sub-level. It is small, but we can fit." "How small?" Krell asked, his massive frame making the question particularly relevant. "You will need to remove your armor." "Absolutely not." Marcus looked at the Thorian, then at the facility, then back at Krell. "Your call, big guy, but those data cores are 3 levels down, and this is our only way in without fighting through 200 more guards." Krell made a grinding sound that I had learned meant reluctant agreement. "I hate working with humans." "Everyone does," Rhea said cheerfully. "Come on." The maintenance shaft was exactly as uncomfortable as Sienna had implied. Even without his armor, Krell barely fit. I was not designed for crawling through tight spaces, and my dignity suffered accordingly. Marcus moved ahead of me, his injured shoulder scraping against the metal walls. I could see blood dripping from his fingers, but he never slowed down, never complained. "Marcus," I said quietly, "the scar on your chest. You said you would tell me about it." He paused, glancing back. In the dim emergency lighting, his face looked older, harder. Yeah, I did say that. You do not have to. No, it's fine. We're probably going to die in the next 20 minutes anyway. Might as well. He started moving again, talking as he crawled. It was 2 years ago. Hegemony raiders hit a human colony on the outer rim. Small place, maybe 5,000 people. They wanted resources, didn't care about casualties. Your sister's colony? No, different one. But when I heard about it, all I could think about was Emma. All those people just trying to live their lives, and these bastards show up and destroy everything. He was quiet for a moment. I went there, unofficially. Wasn't even supposed to be in that sector. Found survivors hiding in the ruins. Found raiders still searching for them. You engaged them alone? Wasn't planning to. Was planning to call for backup, do things properly. But then I saw one of the raiders pull a little girl out of a collapsed building. She was maybe 7 years old, crying for her parents. And this bastard just raised his weapon. Marcus stopped crawling. His voice, when he spoke again, was flat, emotionless. I shot him before he could fire. Then I shot his friends, then their friends. There were 12 of them, all told. I had 6 rounds left when the last one decided he'd rather take his chances in melee combat. The scar. He had blade attachments on his armor. Went right through my vest. Cracked 3 ribs. Punctured a lung. Would have killed me if the girl's father hadn't put a pipe through the raider's skull. He touched his chest, where I knew the scar lay beneath his vest. Spent 4 days in a coma. Doctors said I was lucky to be alive. The girl survived? Yeah, her whole family did. Helped them get to an evac ship, then passed out from blood loss. Woke up a week later with a medal I didn't want, and a lecture from my commanding officer about unauthorized operations. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Worth it, though. Every damn scar is worth it if someone gets to go home at the end. We emerged from the shaft into a darkened corridor. Pax's scanner showed the data core storage was 1 level down, through a security checkpoint that was definitely going to be occupied. All right, Marcus said, checking his rifle again. Standard breach and clear. Sienna scouts ahead, identifies targets. On her signal, Krell hits them with suppressing fire. Rhea and I go in fast, eliminate hostiles. Pax secures the data cores. Vorn keeps us from accidentally blowing up something important. What if there are too many guards? I asked. Marcus smiled, and it was not a nice smile. Then, it'll be exciting. There were 14 guards, 14 heavily armed, fully trained hegemony soldiers between us and our objective. It took 90 seconds. Krell's cannon turned their cover into dust. Rhea moved like liquid death, her shots finding gaps in armor with surgical precision. And Marcus, injured, bleeding, operating with 1 functional arm, fought like something out of a human nightmare story. He took a knife strike to his leg, a plasma graze across his ribs, a shock baton to his already injured shoulder. And he kept moving, kept fighting, kept surviving through sheer bloody-minded refusal to die. When the last guard fell, Marcus swayed on his feet, then caught himself against the wall. Data cores, he managed. Pax, grab them. Vorn, verify we got the right ones this time. I rushed to the storage system, pulling up the directory. There, war crime documentation, civilian casualty records, illegal weapons testing, everything we needed to bring the hegemony before the Galactic Court. We have them, I confirmed. Then let's get out of here before I bleed out and make this dramatic. The extraction was chaos, alarms screaming, guards flooding every corridor, plasma fire turning the facility into a war zone. We fought our way back to the eastern entrance, Krell laying down covering fire that kept the hegemony forces at bay. The dropship appeared overhead, guns blazing, clearing our path. We scrambled aboard, Marcus last, collapsing onto the deck as the ship climbed hard and fast. Rhea immediately started working on his injuries, her hands steady despite the ship's violent maneuvering. You're a mess, Webb. But a successful mess, he gasped. We got the cores? I held them up. We have everything. Good, good. His eyes started to close. Marcus, stay awake, Rhea commanded, just resting my eyes. That's what you said last time, and your heart stopped. Only for a minute, 2 minutes. I knelt beside him, watching as Rhea worked. His body was a disaster. Multiple plasma burns, deep lacerations, probable internal bleeding. Any other species would have died twice over from these injuries. But this was a human. Vorn, Marcus said quietly, forcing his eyes open. You asked me once why humans keep going, why we don't just quit when any sane species would. I remember. It's because we're the species that survived everything. Ice ages, plagues, wars, extinction events. We're descended from the ones who looked at impossible odds and said, "Not today." He coughed, blood on his lips. These scars? They're not weakness, they're receipts. Proof. We paid the price and earned the right to still be here. You are going to survive this, I said firmly. Yeah, probably. I'm too stubborn to die properly. He managed a weak smile. But if I don't, make sure those cores get to the council. Make sure Emma and everyone else gets justice. You will deliver them yourself. He did, 3 weeks later, arm in a sling and walking with a slight limp, but alive. The evidence brought the hegemony down. The council authorized military action. Human forces led the charge, just as Marcus had demanded. I stood beside him during the presentation, watching as the council members reviewed the data we had recovered. Their expressions ranged from shock to horror to barely controlled rage. This is barbaric, one council member said. The hegemony will answer for these crimes. Marcus leaned over to me. See, sometimes being reckless pays off. You nearly died. Multiple times. But I didn't. That's the important part. 6 months later, the war was over. The hegemony surrendered, its leadership facing trial for countless atrocities. Human soldiers returned home, wearing their scars like Marcus wore his. I found him in a bar on Station 12, drinking something that smelled toxic and probably was. He looked tired but content. Vorn, come, celebrate humanity not getting wiped out. I sat beside him. You know the Council is considering permanent human positions in Coalition command structure? Yeah? That's great. You guys could use some fresh perspectives. You mean reckless perspectives? Same thing. He finished his drink, then looked at me seriously. You ever regret recruiting me? I thought about it. The chaos, the near-death experiences, the complete disregard for protocol and sanity. The fact that working with humans had aged me more in 6 months than the previous 40 cycles combined. No, I said finally. I do not regret it. Good. Because I'm pretty sure we're stuck with each other now. He was right. Humanity had proven itself to the galaxy, not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through their absolute refusal to give up, through their ability to take damage that should destroy them and somehow keep fighting, through their scars. I raised my drink to toast him. To surviving. Marcus grinned, that familiar reckless smile. To surviving. And to making sure everyone else gets the chance to survive too. We drank, two unlikely friends from vastly different worlds, bonded by shared trauma and the understanding that sometimes the best way to prove you are strong is to show the scars that prove you survived. The galaxy was changing. Humans were changing it. And despite everything, despite the chaos and danger and absolute insanity that came with their species, I was grateful to be part of it. Because if I had learned anything from Marcus Webb and his collection of scars, it was this. Weakness is not about getting hurt. Weakness is about staying down, and humans never stayed down, ever. The scar on his chest would heal, so would the ones on his shoulder, his leg, and everywhere else. They would join the others, a map of survival written in damaged tissue, proof not of weakness, but of a species that looked at death itself and said, "Not today, not ever."